Welcome back to World Information HD, your gateway to the rarest treasures of our world. Today, we're unveiling the top 17 most valuable USA Lincoln pennies, tiny copper coins that have become legendary since collectors discovered they could be worth millions. From wartime minting mistakes to design mishaps and ultra-low mintages, these pennies transformed history into fortune. Think a simple penny can't make you rich? Think again. Stay tuned as we count down each astonishing specimen, from that one-of-a-kind 1943 3D bronze wheat penny to the iconic 1909 S VDB, and unlock what makes each one a numismatic legend. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss a journey into hidden worth, all here on World Information HD. Today, we're diving deep into a coin that you may have brushed past in your pocket change, a coin that on the surface looks like just another penny, but in reality holds an incredible secret. This is the story of the United States of America's 1980 Denver Mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent coin. At first glance, the 1980 D penny seems ordinary. Copper in color, bearing the iconic image of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, and the Lincoln Memorial proudly displayed on the reverse, it feels like a coin you've seen countless times before. But in the world of coin collecting, also known as numismatics, appearances can be deceiving. What separates an everyday penny from a collector's dream is not only its age, but also its condition, rarity, errors, and the story behind its minting. Let's take a journey back to the year 1980. America was entering a new decade filled with cultural change, political shifts, and economic uncertainty. The inflation of the 1970s had left its mark, and the U.S. Mint continued to produce coins in the millions to satisfy the demands of commerce. The Denver Mint, marked by the small D beneath the date on the Lincoln penny, was one of the primary facilities producing cents for circulation. That year, the Mint struck hundreds of millions of pennies, making the 1980 D Lincoln cent a common coin for everyday transactions. But here's the twist. Within those hundreds of millions, a select few carry extraordinary value. The Lincoln cent has long been one of the most collected coins in America. Ever since its debut in 1909 to honor the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth, collectors have been fascinated by its enduring design and history. The obverse, designed by Victor David Brenner, features a right-facing portrait of Lincoln, and it remains one of the longest-running coin designs in United States history. By 1980, the reverse still carried the Lincoln Memorial, a design introduced in 1959 to commemorate Lincoln's 150th birthday. For over 50 years, this design would remain unchanged until 2009, when it was replaced by a series of commemorative reverses. But what makes the 1980 D Lincoln cent worth more than just a single cent? The answer lies in a combination of factors: rarity, condition, and minting errors. First, let's talk about mintage numbers. The Denver Mint produced over 5 billion pennies in 1980. With numbers like that, it's easy to assume that none of these coins could be worth more than face value. After all, if billions exist, why would anyone pay a premium? The secret lies not in the sheer quantity of coins, but in the small subset of coins that have survived in pristine, uncirculated condition. Collectors pay a premium for coins graded highly by professional services, especially those reaching grades like MS-66, MS-67, or even higher. At these levels, the coin must show almost no signs of wear, perfect luster, sharp details, and flawless surfaces. Now let's turn to the world of errors, one of the most exciting aspects of coin collecting. The 1980 D penny has been found with fascinating mistakes, including double dies, off-center strikes, and repunched mint marks. A double die occurs when the design on the die is improperly impressed, causing the coin to appear as though parts of its lettering or image have been stamped twice. These errors are rare, and collectors go to great lengths to track them down. Even small doubling on the date or the word, Liberty, can transform a common penny into a prized collectible. Similarly, repunched mint marks are highly sought after. Before the modern era of digital minting, mint marks were hand-punched into dies, which sometimes resulted in visible overlapping impressions. If you find a 1980 penny with the D punched twice, slightly offset, you may be looking at a very valuable error. These coins stand out in auctions and attract intense bidding wars. Off-center strikes are another category of error that excites collectors. Imagine a penny where Lincoln's head is partially cut off, or the rim is missing entirely on one side. The more dramatic the error, the higher the coin's value tends to be. Some off-center strikes can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars, depending on their condition and degree of misalignment. So what does this mean for the average person with a jar of pennies sitting in the kitchen? It means that the 1980 penny you casually toss aside could be worth a small fortune if it falls into the categories we've discussed. This is why collectors and treasure hunters across America continue to check their pocket change, their piggy banks, and their inherited coin collections. You never know when an everyday penny could turn into a jackpot. The importance of grading cannot be overstated. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC have revolutionized the coin collecting world by offering impartial, expert evaluations of coins. A 1980 penny that might sell for $1 or $2 in circulated condition could sell for hundreds, or even thousands, if certified at the highest grade levels. The difference between an MS-65 and an MS-67, though seemingly minor, can represent hundreds of dollars in value. That's why serious collectors invest in graded coins, ensuring that their value is preserved and recognized in the marketplace. Now let's step back and consider the cultural significance of the Lincoln penny itself. For over a century, this humble coin has been a symbol of American history, resilience, and progress. Abraham Lincoln, the nation's 16th president, remains one of the most admired figures in U.S. history, remembered for his leadership during the Civil War and his enduring legacy of freedom and unity. To hold a Lincoln penny is to hold a small piece of that legacy in your hand. Collectors are not just seeking monetary value. They're also preserving history, celebrating artistry, and connecting with a national symbol. In recent decades, the debate over whether to continue minting the penny has intensified. Some argue that it costs more than 1 cent to produce a penny, making it impractical in today's economy. Others believe that removing the penny would erase a cherished part of American culture. Whether the penny stays or goes, one fact remains: certain years, certain mint marks, and certain conditions will always hold extraordinary value. And the 1980 penny is one of those surprising cases where a coin from relatively recent history can be worth far more than most people would ever expect. So what should you do if you come across a 1980 penny? The first step is to examine it closely. Look at the date, the mint mark, and the condition. Is the surface shiny and free of scratches? Are there any unusual features like doubling or misaligned strikes? If the coin looks promising, consider sending it to a grading service. Even if you're not a professional collector, grading your coin can unlock its true potential and give you an accurate picture of its value. Coin shows, online auctions, and numismatic clubs are also great places to learn more about the 1980 penny and connect with others who share your passion. The world of coin collecting is not just about profit. It's about community, history, and discovery. Every coin tells a story, and every collector is part of that narrative. As you sift through your change, remember that the 1980 Lincoln cent is more than just copper and zinc. It is a window into the past, a testament to America's minting traditions, and for a lucky few, a ticket to unexpected fortune. And here's the most astonishing part. While billions of these coins exist, the rarest and most pristine examples, those with dazzling surfaces, remarkable preservation, or dramatic minting errors, have commanded incredible prices in the numismatic marketplace. In fact, one such coin has sold for an astounding $45,382. Welcome back to the channel, where we dive deep into the world of coins, history, and hidden treasures hiding right in your pocket change. Today, we're unlocking one of the most fascinating chapters in modern coin collecting, a story that might seem ordinary at first glance, but actually holds some of the most exciting surprises in United States numismatics. We are talking about the 1982 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny, a coin that is far more mysterious and valuable than most people realize. At first, a penny might not look like much. We see them scattered in car cup holders, lying forgotten in kitchen drawers, or slipping into piggy banks without a second thought. But sometimes, what looks like a regular copper-colored coin can turn out to be a collector's dream, worth far more than a single cent. And when we talk about 1982, it's not just another year. It's a year that marked a major turning point in how pennies were made. A year that created varieties, mistakes, and rare finds that today can be worth an impressive fortune. So grab your magnifying glass, coin book, or maybe even check your old jars of change. Because after you hear the story of the 1982 no-mint mark penny, you may want to look twice at those ordinary coins lying around. Let's begin with a little history. The penny has been an American icon since 1909, when it first featured the portrait of President Abraham Lincoln to celebrate his 100th birthday. Over time, the Lincoln cent became a staple of American coinage, and people grew attached to the familiar face of Honest Abe on their copper coins. But by the early 1980s, the United States Mint faced a growing issue: the rising cost of copper. You see, pennies were traditionally made almost entirely of copper, 95% copper to be exact. But with the price of copper climbing, producing these little coins started to cost more than their actual face value. Imagine making a coin that cost the government more than 1 cent to produce. That simply wasn't practical. Something had to change. In 1982, the Mint introduced a major transition. For the first time, pennies were no longer made of solid copper. Instead, the new cents were produced with a core of zinc, coated in a thin layer of copper to give them the same appearance as before. This change reduced production costs, but it also created one of the most complicated years in penny history. Why, you ask? Because in 1982, both types of pennies were struck. That means there are copper pennies from that year, zinc pennies from that year, and several variations of lettering styles and mint marks. Collectors today recognize at least 7 major varieties of 1982 pennies. Some were struck with large dates, some with small dates, some in copper, some in zinc, and some with or without mint marks. This makes 1982 one of the most important years for modern penny collectors, full of mysteries waiting to be discovered. Now let's zoom in on the star of today's story, the 1982 no mint mark penny. When you hear no mint mark, it refers to coins that were struck in Philadelphia. Unlike Denver, which used a D, or San Francisco, which used an S, coins minted in Philadelphia at that time often carried no mint mark at all. To the untrained eye, it might look like a normal penny, but for collectors, the details matter more than ever. The 1982 no mint mark penny comes in multiple varieties, and the difference between a common piece of pocket change and a rare collectible can depend on subtle details like weight, size of the date, or the metal composition. One of the easiest ways to tell the difference between a copper 1982 penny and a zinc 1982 penny is by weight. Copper pennies weigh about 3.11 grams, while zinc pennies weigh only about 2.5 grams. That tiny difference in weight can make a huge difference in value. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Because 1982 was a year of transition, mistakes happened. Some coins were struck in the wrong metal, some were struck with mismatched dies, and others slipped through with errors that were never meant to be released to the public. These error coins, combined with the unique varieties, created a perfect storm for collectors. So what makes a 1982 no mint mark penny valuable? Several key factors come into play. First, condition. As with any collectible coin, the better the condition, the higher the value. A coin that has been well preserved with sharp details and little wear is far more desirable than one that has been beaten up in circulation. Coins graded at the highest levels by professional grading services can fetch remarkable sums at auctions. Second, variety. The small date versus large date versions of the 1982 penny are an essential distinction. Collectors go to great lengths to identify which variety they have, and some varieties are much rarer than others. For example, the 1982 small date no mint mark penny struck in copper is one of the most sought-after varieties of the decade. Third, rarity. This is where it gets truly exciting. Not all 1982 pennies are rare, of course. Millions upon millions were produced. But finding the right variety in the right metal composition in pristine condition is like winning the coin collector's lottery. It's these rare combinations that bring jaw-dropping prices on the open market. Now picture this. A simple penny that most people would overlook can turn into a treasure worth thousands of dollars if it happens to be one of these scarce varieties. Imagine sifting through an old jar of coins from the 1980s and suddenly realizing you're holding a piece of numismatic history in your hand. That's the kind of thrill collectors live for, and that's why the 1982 no mint mark penny has such a legendary status today. Of course, no discussion of this coin would be complete without mentioning the stories from auctions and private sales. Over the years, lucky collectors have discovered rare 1982 pennies in their collections and brought them to market, where bidding wars have driven prices into staggering territory. These sales prove that even the most ordinary-looking coin can hide extraordinary value if you know what to look for. And that brings us to a very important point. How do you know if you have one of these valuable coins? The process is actually not as intimidating as it might sound. First, check the date and the mint mark or lack thereof. If it says 1982 and has no mint mark, you're on the right track. Next, look at the size of the date. Compare it carefully to images of large date and small date versions. Finally, weigh the coin if you can. A simple digital scale can help you determine if it's copper or zinc. If you believe you found something unusual, the next step is to have it authenticated by a professional grading service. Experts can verify the variety, confirm the composition, and assign a grade that determines its market value. With that certification, you can rest assured that your coin is the real deal, and you'll know exactly how rare and valuable it is. Even if you don't stumble upon one of the most valuable varieties, collecting 1982 pennies can still be an incredibly rewarding hobby. They serve as a fascinating reminder of an important moment in American coinage history, when tradition met practicality, and when small mistakes turned into big opportunities. And who knows? That jar of old coins you inherited from a relative might just contain a hidden gem. Coin collecting is more than just a hobby. It's a journey through history, a way to connect with the past, and sometimes even a way to discover wealth where you least expect it. The story of the 1982 no mint mark penny is a perfect example of why coins continue to captivate people around the world. They are tiny pieces of metal, but they carry with them stories of economics, politics, craftsmanship, and chance. So the next time you find a penny lying around, take a closer look. That small piece of change could be much more than it seems. For some lucky collectors, the 1982 no mint mark penny has proven to be worth far more than its humble face value, transforming an everyday coin into a prize worth cherishing. And now, for the part you've all been waiting for, the value. Some of these rare 1982 no mint mark Lincoln 1-cent pennies have been sold for as much as $30,009. Welcome back to the channel, where today we dive into the fascinating world of American coins and hidden treasures that could be sitting right in your pocket change. Every coin has a story to tell, and sometimes that story can lead to an incredible discovery worth thousands of dollars. While many people walk past pennies without even noticing them, coin collectors know better. A single cent can hold historical significance, rare errors, and in some cases a surprisingly high value. Today, we are turning our attention to one of the often overlooked coins of modern times, the United States of America 1989 Denver mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. At first glance, it may appear like nothing more than a common penny, the kind you would expect to find at the bottom of a drawer, lost between couch cushions, or sitting in a jar of spare change. But as history has shown us, even the most ordinary coin can sometimes reveal extraordinary secrets. Let's begin by stepping back and understanding the backdrop of the 1989 penny. The year itself was an interesting time in American history. George H.W. Bush had just become President of the United States. The Cold War was drawing to its dramatic conclusion, and technology was rapidly advancing. Amidst all this change, the United States Mint was still producing billions of Lincoln cents for circulation, continuing a tradition that dated back to 1909, when Victor David Brenner's iconic design of Abraham Lincoln first appeared on the penny to honor the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. By 1989, the Lincoln cent had already undergone several transformations. In 1959, the reverse side design had shifted from the wheat stalks to the Lincoln Memorial, marking the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. This design, showing the memorial in Washington, D.C., remained in use through the year 2008. Collectors today recognize that these coins carry not only monetary value, but also historical significance. The 1989 penny, particularly the one struck at the Denver Mint, carries the small letter D just below the date. That tiny mint mark distinguishes it from pennies made in Philadelphia or San Francisco. The Denver Mint, established in 1906, has long been responsible for producing billions of coins that enter circulation across the nation. In 1989, the mint struck over 5 billion Lincoln cents, which might make you wonder. With so many produced, how could any of them possibly be rare or valuable? The answer lies not in how many were made, but in the condition they have survived in and the presence of errors that occurred during the minting process. For coin collectors, condition is everything. A coin that still has its original luster, no scratches, and no signs of circulation is known as mint state, and such examples of the 1989 D penny are far scarcer than their worn counterparts. Imagine for a moment the journey of an average penny. From the day it was struck in Denver, it may have been handed over countless times. Used to pay for candy at a corner store, jingling inside a child's piggy bank, exchanged as part of $1 at a gas station, or sitting unnoticed in someone's car for decades. With so much circulation, most pennies quickly become scratched, faded, or tarnished. That is why finding a pristine, untouched example from 1989 is so special. Collectors also look for varieties and minting errors. These are accidental quirks that occur when something goes wrong during the minting process. Sometimes the dies that strike the coin double the image slightly, creating what's known as a doubled die. Other times, the mint mark might appear in the wrong place, or a die might be misaligned, leaving part of the design weak or missing. These mistakes were never intentional, yet they slipped into circulation, and they are what collectors dream of finding. With the 1989 D penny, some of the most sought-after examples include doubled die varieties where details on the date or lettering appear slightly doubled under magnification. Another type of collectible error involves off-center strikes, where the design does not land properly on the blank planchet, leaving part of the coin blank. Such dramatic errors are easy to spot and highly prized. There are also cases of clipped planchets, where a portion of the coin is missing because the blank metal sheet was improperly cut. Each of these mistakes transforms an ordinary penny into something truly extraordinary. Even small imperfections that went unnoticed by the mint can drastically increase a coin's desirability. For coin enthusiasts, it is not just about the face value of 1 cent, but about owning a tangible piece of history that carries a unique story. Now, what about the composition of the 1989 penny? This adds another layer to its background. Prior to 1982, Lincoln cents were primarily made of copper. But due to rising copper prices, the United States Mint shifted to a copper-plated zinc composition. The 1989 penny is one of these newer issues, consisting of 97.5% zinc and only 2.5% copper as plating. While this makes them look similar to the older all-copper cents, their lighter weight and susceptibility to corrosion have made it much harder for them to survive in perfect condition. Collectors who seek the highest grades must find examples that avoided the usual spotting, toning, and surface damage. Another point to consider is grading. Professional coin grading services like PCGS or NGC evaluate coins and assign them a grade based on their condition. Grades range from poor all the way to mint state 70, which represents perfection under magnification. For a 1989 D penny to be worth a significant amount, it usually must achieve an exceptionally high grade, such as mint state 67 or 68, and sometimes it must also display a rare error. These top-quality coins are incredibly rare, because most of the billions of coins struck that year suffered immediate handling marks from the minting process itself. It's also worth mentioning that even though billions were made, only a handful of these coins achieve the kind of pristine quality that collectors fight for at auction. This explains why a coin that looks identical to most people can, under the right circumstances, command an astonishing price. Let's paint a scenario. Imagine someone unknowingly tucks away a few pennies in a drawer back in 1989, never spending them, never touching them, and never allowing them to mix with pocket change. 30 years later, those coins resurface, gleaming as if they had just been minted. To the untrained eye, they are simply pennies, but to collectors, they are treasures that deserve to be slabbed, graded, and protected as part of numismatic history. And this is what makes coin collecting so fascinating. It's a world where patience, knowledge, and a keen eye for detail can turn small discoveries into major rewards. The 1989 D penny is proof of this. While most of them remain common and circulate without notice, a select few exist in remarkable condition or with unusual mint errors that elevate their value to incredible heights. So if you ever come across a 1989 Denver mint penny, don't just toss it aside. Take a closer look. Hold it up to the light. Inspect the date and the mint mark. Look for doubling, off-center strikes, or unusual details. And most importantly, examine the overall condition. It may just be one of those rare survivors that could change how you look at pocket change forever. Now we come to the part that most of you have been waiting for, the potential value. After all, while history and design are important, the thrill of coin collecting often comes down to discovering what your coin could be worth in today's market. The truth is that common circulated examples of the 1989 D penny are still worth only face value. You can find them in circulation even today. But in gem mint condition, or with certain errors, the value can skyrocket far beyond what anyone would expect from a coin most people overlook. Some of the finest examples have crossed auction blocks, stunning collectors with their pristine beauty and rarity. And one extraordinary specimen of the 1989 D Lincoln 1-cent penny, when graded at the highest level, reached an impressive price of $26,387. Welcome back to the channel, where we uncover the fascinating world of coins, their hidden secrets, and the surprising values they can hold. Today's journey takes us into the history of a coin that many of us might have handled without even realizing how extraordinary it could be. We are going to talk about the 1991 no mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny, a small copper-colored coin that tells a much bigger story about American history, minting errors, rarity, and value in the collector's market. Now, when people think about pennies, they usually don't imagine a fortune hiding in such a small piece of change. Most of us see pennies as something we toss into a jar, or use for exact change at a store, or maybe even ignore when we see them on the ground. But for coin collectors, certain pennies are treasures. They're not just pieces of money. They're historical artifacts, rare finds, and sometimes even life-changing discoveries. And one of these remarkable coins is the 1991 no mint mark Lincoln penny. Let's start by stepping back in time to understand what this coin represents. The Lincoln cent has been a symbol of the United States for more than a century. First introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, it became the first regularly circulating U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure instead of a symbolic design. For decades, the Lincoln penny has been an everyday reminder of one of America's most iconic leaders, and its design has been beloved by millions. The 1991 penny continues that tradition. On the front, or obverse, we see the familiar portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. Lincoln's profile faces right, with the word Liberty inscribed to his left and the year 1991 stamped just below. Above him, the motto "In God We Trust" stretches across the top. On the back, or reverse, you'll find the Lincoln Memorial, a design that replaced the original wheat ears in 1959. If you look closely at the Lincoln Memorial design, you'll even see a tiny representation of Lincoln's statue inside, a detail that many people miss. So what makes the 1991 no mint mark penny special? After all, billions of pennies were struck that year. The answer lies in rarity and details. Normally, U.S. coins carry a mint mark to show where they were made. For example, pennies minted in Denver carry a small D beneath the year. Coins from San Francisco carry an S, but the Philadelphia Mint, which produces a large share of America's circulating coins, traditionally did not place a mint mark on pennies in 1991. That means a 1991 penny without a mint mark indicates that it was made in Philadelphia. At first glance, that may not sound special. After all, millions rolled out of Philadelphia without a mint mark. But that's where it gets interesting: condition and rarity. Collectors are constantly searching for coins that have survived in pristine shape without scratches, wear, or damage from circulation. The vast majority of 1991 pennies were used in everyday transactions, passed from hand to hand and worn down. But the rare few that survived in mint state condition, especially with no mint mark, are incredibly desirable. Another factor that sets some of these pennies apart are unique variations and errors that sometimes occur during the minting process. Errors are like hidden signatures of history, tiny mistakes that the mint never intended to release. Examples include off-center strikes, double dies where the design is duplicated slightly, or coins struck on the wrong planchet. For a 1991 no mint mark penny, such errors can elevate a coin's value significantly. A simple mistake at the mint can transform an ordinary penny into a collector's prize worth thousands. Now let's talk about the metal composition. The 1991 Lincoln penny is not made entirely of copper, as older pennies once were. Before 1982, pennies contained 95% copper and 5% zinc. But after that year, to save on rising copper costs, the mint switched to a composition of 97.5% zinc and only 2.5% copper plating. That means the 1991 penny is actually a zinc core with a thin copper coating. While it still has that familiar reddish-brown appearance, Its inner structure is mostly zinc, making it lighter than older pennies. This change makes uncirculated examples from the early 1990s more significant for collectors, because these pennies are prone to corrosion and wear more easily than solid copper coins. Collectors often grade coins to determine their quality, using a system that ranges from poor, fair, and good, all the way up to mint state. A coin graded mint state 65 or higher is considered very sharp, with nearly perfect details, bright luster, and minimal marks. Finding a 1991 no mint mark penny in such pristine condition is very rare because most were circulated heavily. But when one does appear at auction, it can command an impressive price. Imagine for a moment holding such a coin in your hand. To the casual observer, it's just a penny, worth 1 cent. But to the trained eye of a numismatist, it's a gleaming artifact that has survived 3 decades without wear. The value of such a piece doesn't lie in its face value, but in its scarcity and the story it carries. So why do collectors pay thousands for a single penny? The answer lies in supply and demand. The number of collectors chasing high-grade examples far outnumbers the available coins in those conditions. Rarity creates competition, and competition drives prices sky high. Add in the fascination of Lincoln's legacy and the long tradition of the penny in American history, and you have a recipe for strong demand. Auctions in recent years have demonstrated just how sought after this coin can be. Dealers and collectors gather at these events, searching for hidden gems. When a 1991 no mint mark Lincoln scent surfaces in top condition, bidding wars can erupt. For seasoned collectors, it represents a chance to add a missing piece to their set. For newcomers, it's an opportunity to own something truly special that could appreciate in value over time. Beyond auctions, the thrill of discovery keeps interest alive. Ordinary people sometimes stumble upon these rare pennies by accident. Maybe a coin roll hunter searching through bank rolls comes across one. Maybe someone finds a forgotten jar of coins in the attic and decides to look more closely. Stories like these fuel the dream that anyone could be holding a fortune in their pocket change without even realizing it. The 1991 penny also fits into the broader timeline of Lincoln cents, adding depth to a collector's journey. From the wheat penny era of 1909 to 1958, to the memorial design from 1959 through 2008, and then to the shield design starting in 2010, each chapter tells its own story. The 1991 penny stands at the heart of the memorial era, representing both a continuation of tradition and the everyday reality of American life in the early 1990s. Think about what was happening in 1991. The Cold War had just ended, the internet was still in its infancy, and millions of Americans were using these very pennies in their daily lives. Each coin is a snapshot of that time, a reminder of an era that feels both distant and familiar. Holding a 1991 penny today is like holding a small piece of history. As we wrap up this exploration, it's clear that the 1991 no mint mark Lincoln 1 cent penny is much more than small change. It's a symbol of history, a product of unique minting practices, and in the right condition, a highly valuable collectible. While countless examples exist in circulation, the rare ones in mint state condition are the true treasures. So if you have a coin collection, or even just a jar of pennies sitting at home, it might be worth taking a closer look. Who knows? You might discover that one of the most ordinary-looking coins is actually extraordinary. And if you happen to find a pristine 1991 no mint mark Lincoln penny, you could be holding something valued at $27,000. The Lincoln cent is perhaps one of the most iconic and beloved coins in United States history. From the moment it was first introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, this small copper coin has carried with it not just monetary value, but also deep historical and sentimental significance. Over the decades, the Lincoln penny has seen design changes, minting errors, special editions, and countless varieties, each one with its own story to tell. Today, we turn our attention to one particular issue that often sparks curiosity among collectors and treasure hunters alike, the 1995 D mint mark Lincoln 1 cent penny. Now, when most people hear about rare and valuable coins, their minds immediately go to older issues, those from the early 1900s or even the 1800s. But what surprises many is that even more modern coins, ones struck within the past 30 years, can hold unexpected value. And the 1995 D penny is a perfect example of how something seemingly common can turn into a collector's prize under the right circumstances. To understand the importance of the 1995 D-penny, let us first take a closer look at the context of this coin's creation. In 1995, the United States Mint was producing billions of pennies to meet the daily needs of commerce. The Denver Mint, represented by the D Mint mark, was a key facility in striking these coins. Pennies struck in Denver that year were made of the standard copper-plated zinc composition, which had been introduced in 1982. Each coin weighed 2.5 grams and measured 19 millimeters in diameter. The obverse featured the enduring portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner, while the reverse displayed the image of the Lincoln Memorial, a design that had been in use since 1959. At first glance, the 1995 D-penny looks no different from any other penny you might pull from your pocket change. Billions were made, and they circulated widely across the nation. So how does an ordinary coin suddenly become something extraordinary? The answer lies in the fascinating world of coin collecting, where factors like condition, rarity, minting errors, and historical significance combine to create hidden gems that can sell for thousands of dollars. One of the main elements that sets certain 1995 D-pennies apart is condition. Collectors often seek coins that are in pristine, uncirculated states. These are coins that have somehow avoided the scratches, dings, and wear of everyday circulation. A 1995 D-penny that has been carefully preserved and graded by a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC can attract significant interest at auction. High grades, especially those above MS67, are exceptionally difficult to find. In fact, while millions of 1995 D-pennies were struck, only a tiny fraction survive in near-perfect condition. That rarity in top grade is what drives up demand and, consequently, value. Another key factor involves errors and varieties. In coin collecting, error coins are especially exciting because they represent mistakes in the minting process that escaped detection before the coins were released into circulation. For the 1995 penny, one of the most famous varieties is the doubled die obverse, most famously seen in the Philadelphia issue without a mint mark. This doubling caused certain letters, particularly in the inscriptions Liberty and In God We Trust, to appear doubled, making those coins highly sought after. While the Denver Mint version is not known for the exact same dramatic doubling, collectors often carefully inspect their 1995 D-pennies for subtle errors, striking anomalies, off-center designs, or other unusual features that could make the coin stand out from the rest. But beyond errors, the story of the 1995 D-penny's value is also tied to collector demand. Modern collectors increasingly pay attention to late 20th century issues because they represent coins people grew up with, pennies that were spent in stores, collected in piggy banks, or handed out as change at school cafeterias. Nostalgia plays a huge role in the hobby of coin collecting. The coins that were once taken for granted are now being reevaluated as treasures, especially when preserved in brilliant condition. It is also worth noting that the Lincoln cent has long been one of the most collected coin series in American numismatics. Generations of collectors have started their journeys by filling blue Whitman coin folders with Lincoln cents, beginning with the earliest wheat pennies of 1909, and continuing through the memorial design, the shield design, and beyond. Because of this widespread interest, even modern Lincoln cents attract attention from a broad base of collectors, ensuring strong market demand for standout examples. So what does this mean for the 1995 D-penny specifically? For the casual observer, most 1995 D-pennies are worth face value. You can find them in circulation, and they often pass from hand to hand unnoticed. However, for the sharp-eyed collector or the person lucky enough to stumble across an exceptional specimen, the value can skyrocket. A 1995 D-penny in pristine, high-grade condition, verified by a top grading service, can command thousands of dollars at auction. Stories have circulated of individuals who, after decades of ignoring their change jars or old coin collections, suddenly discover that they've been holding onto a small fortune without realizing it. That is part of the magic of coin collecting, the thrill of the hunt, the possibility that an unassuming coin could hold a hidden fortune. For every person who believes they're just looking at another common penny, there could be another person recognizing a rare treasure that deserves a place in a premium collection. The journey of the 1995 D-penny is a lesson in attention to detail, patience, and historical appreciation. Every coin carries a narrative. The penny, often dismissed as insignificant, has played a central role in American life for over a century. And when a coin like the 1995D rises in prominence because of its rarity in top grades, it reminds us that even the smallest denominations can hold immense importance. Collectors who pursue the 1995D penny often go to great lengths to find the best examples. Professional grading and encapsulation in a secure holder not only protect the coin, but also provide buyers with confidence in its authenticity and quality. Auction houses and online marketplaces frequently see competitive bidding for the highest graded examples, driving prices upward as eager collectors vie for ownership. It is fascinating to think that a coin minted only a few decades ago can already be regarded as a prize. Normally, one might expect coins from the 1800s or earlier to command such attention. Yet the 1995D penny proves that age alone does not determine value. Instead, rarity in condition, collector demand, and historical context all intersect to create desirability. For those watching this video and wondering if you might have a valuable 1995D penny in your possession, the best advice is to carefully inspect your coins. Look for sharp details, brilliant luster, and minimal marks. Consider sending especially clean examples to a grading service for evaluation. Even if your coin does not turn out to be worth thousands, the process of learning and exploring coin collecting can be incredibly rewarding. The world of coins teaches us to look closer, to appreciate the fine details, and to value objects that others might overlook. A penny, after all, is more than just 1 cent. It is a tiny piece of history, art, and national identity. And in some cases, like with the 1995D mint mark Lincoln penny, it can also be a small piece of treasure. So the next time you come across a penny from the 1990s, don't dismiss it too quickly. Take a moment to examine it, research it, and imagine the journey it has taken through countless hands and pockets. Who knows? You might be holding something far more valuable than you ever imagined. Because in the world of rare coins, surprises are always possible, and even the most ordinary-looking penny can sometimes carry extraordinary worth. And in the case of the 1995D mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny, some have been known to sell for as much as $21,000. In the fascinating world of numismatics, where coins become more than just tokens of exchange, there lies an endless story of history, rarity, and unexpected treasure. Among the countless coins produced in the United States, some ordinary-looking pieces hide extraordinary secrets, and one of the most talked-about examples is the 1995 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. At first glance, it seems like nothing more than the copper-colored coin you might find in your pocket change. But when you dive deeper into its background, production, and the unique features that make it special, you realize this coin carries a story worth telling. The Lincoln cent has long been a cornerstone of American currency. First introduced in 1909 to honor the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth, the coin became an instant icon. Unlike earlier designs, which often portrayed symbolic figures like liberty, the Lincoln cent directly honored a real historical figure, one of the most beloved presidents in United States history. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the obverse side of the coin features a detailed profile of Abraham Lincoln facing right. Over the decades, this simple yet powerful design has remained, becoming the longest-running coin design in American history. By 1995, the Lincoln cent had already been in circulation for 86 years, and millions upon millions had been minted across different facilities. When speaking of minting, it is crucial to understand how the United States Mint operates. Coins are produced at several facilities across the country, and each coin bears a tiny mark, known as a mint mark, indicating where it was made. The Philadelphia Mint, for example, is typically represented with no mint mark at all, while coins from Denver are marked with a small D, and coins from San Francisco carry an S. By the mid-1990s, coins without a mint mark typically came from Philadelphia. Thus, when we talk about the 1995 no mint mark penny, we are specifically looking at a Philadelphia minted coin. Now the question arises, what makes this particular penny so intriguing? After all, billions of pennies are minted each year, and most of them carry little to no additional value. The allure of the 1995 no mint mark penny lies in both its history and in special variations that came to light. While the year 1995 saw a high production of pennies, something extraordinary happened at the Philadelphia Mint. A number of coins were struck with what is known as a double die obverse. This means that during the minting process, The design elements were struck in such a way that they appeared doubled, most noticeably in the inscriptions such as Liberty and In God We Trust. This kind of doubling is not intentional. It is an error, a mechanical mishap in the process of die production. Yet ironically, these errors make certain coins incredibly valuable to collectors. For the 1995 penny, the doubled die obverse became one of the most popular and sought-after errors in modern numismatics. Collectors immediately began hunting for them in circulation, and lucky individuals who found them suddenly possessed a coin that was worth far more than a single cent. The doubling is relatively easy to spot with the naked eye, especially in the word Liberty, where the letters appear shadowed or doubled. That visibility made this variety famous, as collectors did not need magnification or advanced tools to identify it. But rarity is not solely about errors. The condition of a coin, known as its grade, plays an equally important role. Coins fresh from the mint with no signs of wear are graded higher, and collectors always pay premiums for pristine examples. For the 1995 no-mint mark penny, those preserved in uncirculated condition, especially with the doubled die obverse, can command astonishing prices. In the world of collecting, even a small difference in grade can mean hundreds or even thousands of dollars in value. Beyond the doubling, another factor that fascinates collectors is the sheer story behind the Lincoln cent itself. By the 1990s, the penny had undergone material changes. Originally minted in 95% copper, the Lincoln cent shifted to a copper-plated zinc composition in 1982 due to rising copper prices. This means that the 1995 no-mint mark penny is primarily zinc, coated with a thin layer of copper. While this change reduced production costs, it also made the coins more prone to corrosion and wear, making high-grade examples even more precious. Imagine then holding a 1995 penny in your hand. On the surface, it is 1 cent, barely enough to buy anything in today's economy. But with the right combination of factors, being struck in Philadelphia with no mint mark, carrying the doubled die obverse, and surviving decades in uncirculated condition, it transforms into a collector's gem. This transformation from pocket change to treasure is what fuels the passion of coin collectors worldwide. Another aspect that adds to its mystique is accessibility. Unlike some rare coins that were never widely released to the public, the 1995 no-mint mark doubled die penny circulated in everyday commerce. This means that anyone, from a child searching through piggy banks to an adult counting spare change at a grocery store, had the chance of stumbling upon one. Stories spread of people discovering these rare coins in the most ordinary circumstances, sparking a nationwide interest in checking pennies from 1995. This excitement also helped renew public interest in coin collecting itself. In the 1990s, the hobby experienced a revival, with new generations becoming fascinated by the idea that treasure could be hiding in plain sight. The 1995 penny stood as proof that valuable coins weren't just relics from the distant past, but could emerge from modern circulation as well. To fully appreciate the journey of this coin, one must also consider how coins are graded and authenticated. Professional grading services, such as the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, and the Numismatic Guarantee Company, NGC, evaluate coins and assign them a numerical grade on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being flawless perfection. A 1995 no-mint mark penny graded at the top levels, such as Mint State 67 or Mint State 68, with the doubled die feature, becomes a rarity among rarities. These top-grade coins are not only scarce, but also command fierce bidding wars at auctions. Collectors love the story of the 1995 penny because it ties together so many themes: the legacy of Abraham Lincoln, the craftsmanship and occasional imperfections of the U.S. Mint, the historical shift from copper to zinc, and the thrill of finding something extraordinary in ordinary places. Each penny carries with it a piece of American history, but some carry an added mystery and excitement that elevate them far beyond their face value. It is also worth mentioning that not every 1995 penny with no mint mark carries significant value. Millions were produced, and only those with a special doubling or preserved in high grade fetch premium prices. This is why careful examination is crucial. Collectors use magnifying glasses, loupes, and even digital microscopes to study their coins closely, searching for those telltale signs of doubling. For many, the search itself becomes an adventure, blending history, treasure hunting, and careful craftsmanship into one fascinating pursuit. So next time you handle your spare change, remember the story of the 1995 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. It reminds us that history often hides in the smallest of places. It teaches us that even an everyday object can hold extraordinary value if you know where to look and what to appreciate. Coins are more than money. They are artifacts, each carrying a legacy, a story, and sometimes a secret waiting to be discovered. And in the case of this unassuming penny from 1995, that secret is that under the right circumstances, this coin has been valued as high as $17,267. Welcome back to the channel, where we dive deep into the fascinating world of rare coins, hidden treasures, and collectibles that might be sitting right in your pocket change. Today, we're going to uncover the story, the history, and the surprising value of a coin that many people overlook every single day. The 1996 Lincoln penny with the Denver Mint mark, also known as the 1996 D Lincoln 1-cent coin. Now, before you brush it off as just another ordinary penny, let me assure you, there's more to this humble piece of copper-plated zinc than meets the eye. While billions were minted in 1996, and yes, the majority of them are still only worth face value, certain conditions, rare errors, and well-preserved specimens can make this coin worth much more than just a single cent. For collectors and enthusiasts, this coin carries history, artistry, and sometimes even hidden fortune. To understand why the 1996 D penny holds a place of interest in the coin collecting world, let's first step back in time. The Lincoln cent has been in circulation since 1909, when it was first introduced to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. It became the first circulating U.S. coin to feature a real person instead of a symbolic figure. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the obverse portrait of Abraham Lincoln remains one of the most iconic designs in American coinage. By 1996, nearly 9 decades later, Lincoln's portrait had become a staple in everyday life, seen by millions of Americans daily. But what makes the Denver Mint 1996 penny stand out? In 1996, the Denver Mint produced over 6.5 billion pennies. That's billions with a B with such a high mintage. Most people assume these coins are common and worthless beyond a cent. And while that is true for the vast majority, collectors know that not every penny is created equal. A small percentage are struck differently, preserved better, or display unique characteristics that set them apart. These are the ones that collectors are eager to find, and that's where value begins to climb. Let's talk about condition. Condition is everything in coin collecting. A penny that has been in circulation, rattling around in pockets and drawers, losing its original shine and showing scratches and wear is usually only worth face value. But a 1996 D Lincoln cent found in pristine, uncirculated condition, what collectors call mint state, can be worth far more. Coins graded MS-65, MS-66, or even higher are the gems collectors fight for. Why? Because out of billions minted, only a tiny fraction survive in flawless condition. Now add in the excitement of errors. Mint errors are among the most fascinating aspects of coin collecting. The 1996 D penny has been known to appear with striking errors like double dies, off-center strikes, or even die cracks. A double die error can make the lettering or Lincoln's features appear doubled, and these varieties can command premium prices. Off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing because the blank wasn't perfectly aligned, also attract collectors. Even die cracks, where a small raised line appears across the coin due to a flaw in the die, can bring interest. These minting mistakes, once overlooked as imperfections, now turn ordinary coins into valuable collectibles. But beyond errors and condition, what gives the 1996 D penny a layer of interest is its place in the broader history of the Lincoln cent. By the mid-1990s, the Lincoln Memorial reverse design had already been in use since 1959, when it replaced the wheat ears reverse. For nearly 4 decades, Americans grew used to seeing the tiny Lincoln seated inside the memorial on the reverse of their coins. The 1996 issue is part of that long-running series. For collectors who specialize in memorial reverse cents, this year represents an essential piece in completing a full set. Another detail worth noting is the composition. The 1996 penny, like all pennies minted after 1982, was struck on a copper-plated zinc planchet. Earlier pennies were made from 95% copper, but starting in the 1980s, the mint switched to a cheaper composition, 97.5% zinc with a thin copper coating. This change means the penny no longer holds intrinsic metal value close to its face value. Yet, ironically, even though the materials are cheaper, certain post-1982 pennies, like the 1996 D in exceptional condition, can be worth much more due to collectability rather than composition. Collectors often ask, what are the chances of finding a valuable 1996 D penny in circulation today? The truth is, while the odds are slim, it's not impossible. Millions of these coins are still floating around in pocket change, bank rolls, and coin jars across America. The thrill of coin hunting comes from the possibility that a seemingly ordinary penny you pick up could be the one rare variety or high-grade example worth far more than its face value. It's this excitement that keeps collectors searching and learning. Now let's dive a little deeper into the grading system. Professional coin grading services like PCGS and NGC have become the gold standard for determining the value of coins. A 1996 D penny graded MS67 or higher can be worth significantly more than one in average circulated condition. The difference between MS65 and MS67 might seem small to the untrained eye, but to collectors, it's massive. That sharp detail, flawless luster, and absence of contact marks elevate a coin from ordinary to extraordinary. Imagine holding in your hand a penny that most people would never think twice about, yet in the collector's market, it sparks bidding wars. That's the magic of numismatics, the study and collection of coins. It teaches us that value isn't just about the metal, the face value, or even the age. It's about rarity, condition, history, and the stories coins carry through time. Speaking of history, let's reflect on the year 1996 itself. It was a year of cultural milestones in America. The Atlanta Summer Olympics took place, Bill Clinton was re-elected as president, and technology was beginning to shape the way people lived. Amid all this change, the humble penny remained constant, a silent witness to history. Holding onto a coin from that year is like holding onto a time capsule, a piece of the everyday life of Americans nearly 3 decades ago. And while many dismiss pennies as annoying pocket change, collectors know better. They recognize the artistry in Victor David Brenner's original portrait of Lincoln, the evolution of the cent's design, and the unique traits each minting year carries. The 1996 D penny is a reminder that even the smallest coins can hold great significance. So how do you know if your 1996 D penny is valuable? Start with condition. Check if it still has its original red luster, minimal scratches, and sharp details. If it looks nearly perfect, it may be worth getting graded. Next, look for errors, any unusual doubling, misalignment, or cracks. These details are what turn ordinary coins into rare finds. And of course, compare with recent auction results because the coin market can fluctuate with demand. The beauty of coin collecting is that it's not just about profit, it's about discovery. Every coin tells a story, and every collector becomes a part of that story. The 1996 D Lincoln penny might be common on the surface, but in the right condition it becomes extraordinary. And finally, to the part you've been waiting for, the value. While most 1996 D pennies are still worth just 1 cent, the rarest and highest grade examples have shocked collectors at auctions. In fact, a pristine specimen has been sold for an impressive $15,555. Welcome back to World Information HD, the channel where hidden treasures from the world of coins and currency come to life. Today, we're diving into the fascinating history, details, and collector's value of a modern coin that most people would dismiss as ordinary pocket change. The United States of America 2003 D Mint Mark Lincoln 1 cent penny. This coin, though often overlooked, has a story worth telling, and in the right condition, it can be worth an amount of money you would never expect. When people hear about valuable coins, their minds usually wander to old silver dollars from the 1800s or rare gold coins with limited mintages. But sometimes, the most surprising treasures are hiding in plain sight, tucked away in a jar of spare change, or even jingling in your wallet. That's what makes the 2003 D Lincoln penny so captivating. It looks like any ordinary coin, but when studied closely, it reveals a world of details, errors, and conditions that transform it into a collector's prize. To truly appreciate why this coin has become a subject of fascination, let's start by traveling back to the year 2003. America was entering a new era. The world was embracing technology. New cultural shifts were happening, and yet the humble Lincoln penny continued to be struck, just as it had been since 1909. The Lincoln cent has been one of the longest-running coin designs in U.S. history, honoring the legacy of President Abraham Lincoln. By 2003, the penny was already nearing its 100th year in circulation, and though it was common, it carried with it a tradition that collectors cherish. The Denver Mint, identified by its D mint mark, was one of the key facilities producing coins during this time. Known for its massive output, the Denver Mint struck millions upon millions of pennies in 2003. With so many coins entering circulation, one might assume they were all identical and common. But the truth is, the world of minting is never perfect. Tiny imperfections in the minting process, unusual strikes, and specific conditions often give rise to rarities that become extremely valuable over time. When examining a 2003 D Lincoln penny, the first detail most collectors pay attention to is the overall strike quality. Lincoln's bust, his iconic profile facing right, is the centerpiece of the coin. Collectors look closely at the sharpness of the features, the outline of his hair, the clarity of his eye, and the definition in his cheekbones. Even the tiny letters in God We Trust, along the top, and the word Liberty to the left of Lincoln are examined for sharpness. On the right side, the date 2003 sits proudly, accompanied by the small but significant D mint mark just below it. These details may seem ordinary to the casual observer, but for a numismatist, they hold the key to determining rarity and value. Now, why would a coin minted in the millions in 2003, a coin still relatively modern, be considered valuable? The answer lies in three critical factors: condition, errors, and collector demand. Condition is perhaps the most important. The majority of 2003 D pennies were used in everyday transactions, tossed around in cash registers, purses, and pockets. Over time, they became scratched, worn, and dull. However, a small fraction of these coins managed to survive in pristine condition, untouched, uncirculated, and still shimmering with the original red luster that copper-plated zinc pennies are known for. These coins are often graded by professional services such as PCGS or NGC, and when they reach high grades like MS68 or above, their value skyrockets. Imagine holding a penny that looks exactly as it did the day it rolled off the presses at the Denver Mint. That's the kind of perfection collectors are willing to pay big money for. But condition is only part of the story. Errors are where the 2003 D penny becomes truly fascinating. Mint errors are accidental variations created during production, and they can range from minor misstrikes to dramatic mistakes that make each coin unique. Some 2003 D pennies feature doubled dies, where parts of the design appear duplicated due to a misalignment in the minting process. Others may have off-center strikes, giving the coin an unusual and eye-catching appearance. There are also reports of clipped planchets, where a small portion of the coin is missing because of an error in the blanking process. Each of these errors turns an ordinary penny into a rare collectible, and the more dramatic the error, the more collectors are willing to pay. Collector demand is the third piece of the puzzle. The Lincoln Cent series has one of the most passionate collector bases in the world. People have been filling penny albums for generations, hunting for every date and mint mark combination. Even modern issues like the 2003 D penny hold significance because they complete sets and appeal to those who want coins in the best possible condition. The sheer popularity of Lincoln Cents drives up demand for high-grade examples and unique errors. Another interesting detail about the 2003 D penny is its composition. By this time, the U.S. Mint had long since moved away from the traditional copper cents of earlier years. Instead, pennies were composed of a zinc core coated with a thin layer of copper. This change, introduced in 1982, made pennies cheaper to produce, but also more prone to damage and discoloration. Zinc pennies often develop spots, corrosion, and other imperfections over time, which makes finding a flawless example from 2003 even more difficult. When one of these coins is preserved in brilliant red condition, it stands out dramatically from the rest. Let's not forget about the reverse side of the coin, which features the Lincoln Memorial. This design, introduced in 1959 to honor the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, remained in use until 2008. On the 2003 D penny, the Lincoln Memorial is shown in fine detail, with the words United States of America arching across the top and EPLURIBUSUNUM just above the memorial itself. At the bottom, the denomination 1 cent is clearly struck. Collectors often look at the columns of the memorial to check for sharpness, as well as the tiny statue of Lincoln that can be seen between the columns. The clearer the details, the more desirable the coin. One of the reasons modern pennies like the 2003D are gaining recognition is because many people simply overlook them. Everyone is searching for the older, classic wheat pennies from the early 1900s, but fewer people realize that even contemporary coins can hold incredible value. As the years pass, high-quality 2003D pennies become harder to find, especially since many have already been lost to circulation, damage, or simply discarded. This scarcity in top condition fuels the market for collectors who want to own the best examples. Stories also play a powerful role in the value of coins. Imagine a collector who started filling an album with Lincoln cents as a child, back in the 1950s or 1960s. Now, decades later, they are still building that collection, and part of their passion is finding modern coins in the highest grade possible. For them, the 2003D penny isn't just a small coin, it's a piece of a lifelong journey, a missing puzzle piece in a series that spans generations. That emotional connection adds to the demand and the value. And let's not underestimate the thrill of the hunt. Coin collectors love the idea that something extraordinary could be hiding in ordinary places. Picture a young collector checking rolls of pennies from the bank, searching carefully through each coin. Hours pass, but suddenly, a flawless, bright 2003D penny catches their eye. They send it off to be graded, and when it comes back with a high mint state rating, its value transforms overnight. That excitement, the possibility of turning a single cent into a small fortune, is what makes coin collecting so addictive. Now let's bring everything together. The 2003D Lincoln 1-cent penny may seem common at first glance, but its value lies in the details. Coins in high mint state condition with bright, original luster are incredibly sought after. Rare mint errors from this year make certain examples unique and highly prized. And with the ever-growing passion of Lincoln cent collectors, the demand for the best examples continues to climb. So how much can a 2003D Lincoln penny really be worth? While the vast majority of these coins will only ever be worth face value, just 1 cent, there are exceptional cases where a flawless example or a dramatic error can command a stunning price on the open market. In fact, one of these remarkable coins has sold for as much as $14,000. Welcome back to the channel, where coins are not just tiny pieces of metal but treasures of American history that can sometimes be worth far more than their face value. Today, we are diving deep into one of the most fascinating modern pennies that collectors are buzzing about. At first glance, it may seem ordinary, just like the many you've probably used in your daily life without a second thought. But the truth is, the 2011 Lincoln penny with no mint mark hides a story of rarity, mistakes, and collector demand that can surprise even the most experienced hobbyists. Stay with me until the end, because you'll want to know why this coin has captured so much attention and exactly how much it can be worth today. Now let's start at the beginning. The penny is one of the most recognized coins in the world. It has carried the face of Abraham Lincoln since 1909, when the United States Mint introduced it to honor the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. Over time, the penny has gone through design changes, different reverse artwork, and multiple composition shifts, yet it remains the humble coin we all know so well. But sometimes it is the tiniest detail, a missing mark, a small error, or a slight variation, that transforms an everyday penny into a collector's dream. When we look at the 2011 Lincoln penny, we first need to understand the context of the year. In 2011, the United States Mint was striking billions of pennies, most at the Philadelphia and Denver facilities. Coins minted in Denver carry a little D mint mark under the date. Coins struck in San Francisco with a special proof finish carry the S mint mark. But coins minted in Philadelphia traditionally bear no mint mark at all. This means if you see a penny dated 2011 without a mint mark, it's a product of the Philadelphia Mint. But that's where things get fascinating. Even though these no-mint mark pennies were common, not all of them are created equal. Some have unusual features, minting errors, and specific conditions that can launch them into the spotlight of serious coin collectors. The design of the 2011 penny is known as the Union Shield reverse. On one side, we have the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner, a design that has stood for over a century. On the other side, the reverse features a shield with a banner reading, E pluribus unum, symbolizing the unity of the United States. This reverse design was introduced in 2010, replacing the temporary bicentennial designs from 2009. By 2011, this shield penny was still fresh and new in circulation. making it a coin people noticed more carefully compared to the older Lincoln memorial cents. But why does the no mint mark 2011 penny matter? The answer lies in condition, rarity of high-grade specimens, and the quirks of minting errors. Billions of these pennies were made, but the vast majority went straight into circulation. They passed from hand to hand, got scratched, nicked, and worn down. For collectors, condition is everything. A 2011 penny with no mint mark that is heavily used is only worth 1 cent. But in pristine, uncirculated condition, especially if graded by a professional service like PCGS or NGC, it can command much higher values. Think about this for a moment. With billions of coins made, only a tiny fraction survive in perfect condition. Imagine finding one in a roll of freshly opened bankrupt pennies, with no scratches, no marks, and a strong luster. That single coin could be far more valuable than the hundreds of other pennies in the same roll. Now let's talk about errors, because this is where things get even more exciting. Coin errors are unintentional mistakes that happen during the minting process. Collectors love them because they are accidental, rare, and often visually striking. For the 2011 penny, some of the most interesting errors include off-center strikes, die cracks, doubled dies, and even plating issues. An off-center strike, where part of the design is missing because the coin wasn't properly aligned during minting, can turn a normal penny into a collectible piece worth far more than face value. Similarly, a doubled die, where the design appears doubled due to a mistake in the die-making process, can create a coin that collectors will pay handsomely for. Intriguing aspect of the 2011 no mint mark penny is its composition. Since 1982, pennies have been made mostly of zinc with a thin copper coating. This makes them lightweight but also prone to certain issues like zinc rot or bubbling of the copper plating. Coins that develop unusual patterns or blistering on the surface may be considered defective, but in some cases, collectors seek out these oddities because they tell a story about the challenges of modern coin production. For new collectors, finding a 2011 penny without a mint mark in circulation might not seem thrilling. After all, it's just a penny. But advanced collectors know better. They carefully examine these coins for pristine condition, strong strikes, or errors that set them apart. And when they find one worth keeping, they often send it off to be graded. A coin graded at the highest levels, like Mint State 67 or Mint State 68, can be extremely rare. Out of millions of coins, perhaps only a handful achieve such a grade, making them valuable to those who want the very best examples for their collections. Let's not forget the human element behind all of this. Every coin has a journey. A 2011 penny might have been handed to a child for change at a candy store, dropped into a parking meter, or tossed into a piggy bank. Some circulated so widely that they've nearly lost their details, while others, by chance, were set aside and preserved. That act of preservation is what makes the difference. It is why certain coins from the exact same year, same design, and same mint can carry values that differ by thousands of dollars. So how do collectors and dealers determine the worth of a 2011 no mint mark penny? It comes down to 3 main factors: condition, rarity of the specific variation or error, and demand in the market. Auction results give us the clearest picture. Coins that have been professionally graded and entered into auctions often sell for far more than their face value, especially when they achieve top grades or have unusual errors. The market for coins is dynamic. Values can fluctuate as more collectors enter the hobby, as demand for certain years increases, and as new varieties are discovered. But the general trend shows that high-grade examples of the 2011 no mint mark penny are highly desirable. Collectors of modern Lincoln cents want them to complete sets, and when supply is limited at the top quality levels, competition pushes prices up. Now here's the part you've been waiting for: the value. Among the many 2011 no mint mark Lincoln pennies, the finest examples, preserved in immaculate condition and graded at the very top, have shocked collectors with their auction results. Believe it or not, one of these modern pennies has sold for as much as $7,000. The world of coin collecting is filled with surprises, hidden gems, and fascinating stories. Every coin, no matter how small, carries with it a history of design, craftsmanship, and rarity. And sometimes, a coin that looks ordinary at first glance can turn out to be worth far more than its face value. Today, we are diving into the story of one such coin, the 2020 no mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny from the United States of America. For most people, the penny is one of the most common coins in circulation. We use it to make change, we leave it in jars, or sometimes we barely even notice it. But in the world of numismatics, the study and collection of coins, even a penny can become a treasure if it carries the right features, errors, or conditions. The 2020 penny is a coin that has caught the attention of collectors all across the nation, and for good reason. To understand why the 2020 no mint mark penny matters, we first need to go back and talk about the Lincoln cent itself. Introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln, the Lincoln cent became the first U.S. coin to feature the image of an actual historical figure rather than a symbolic representation of liberty. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the obverse or front side of the coin features the bust of Abraham Lincoln with the inscriptions "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the year of issue. The reverse design of the Lincoln penny has changed several times over the years. Originally, from 1909 to 1958, the coin carried the famous wheat ears design, also known as the Lincoln wheat penny. From 1959 until 2008, the reverse displayed the Lincoln Memorial, one of the most recognizable landmarks in Washington, D.C. in 2009. To celebrate the bicentennial of Lincoln's birth, the U.S. Mint released a special series of 4 reverse designs highlighting different stages of Lincoln's life. Starting in 2010 and continuing to the present day, the Lincoln cent features a shield design on the reverse, symbolizing unity and Lincoln's role in preserving the Union during the Civil War. That brings us to the 2020 penny. On the obverse, you still see Lincoln's profile facing right. On the reverse, you see the Union shield with a banner across it reading 1 cent, while above it is the familiar inscription E pluribus unum. The design is modern but also deeply connected to America's history. Now here's where things get interesting. U.S. coins often carry mint marks to show where they were produced. The main U.S. mint facilities are located in Philadelphia, Denver, San Francisco, and West Point. Philadelphia coins usually carry no mint mark for pennies, while Denver coins are marked with a D, and San Francisco coins typically have an S for proof coins. When collectors refer to a no mint mark coin, they are usually talking about a coin made in Philadelphia. The 2020 no mint mark penny, produced at the Philadelphia Mint, might not look like anything out of the ordinary. Millions were struck, and most people wouldn't think twice about using it in a store. But coin collectors have learned that some examples of this coin have characteristics that make them far more valuable than a single cent. One of the key factors that makes the 2020 penny valuable is condition. Collectors always prize coins that are in pristine condition, coins that have never been circulated, coins without scratches, blemishes, or discoloration. These are known as uncirculated or mint state coins, and they can be worth far more than the average penny you find in your pocket. For the 2020 no mint mark penny, some of the highest graded examples have drawn strong attention at auctions. Another element that affects value is the possibility of minting errors. Error coins are coins that were produced with some kind of mistake during the minting process. These errors can include double strikes, off-center strikes, die cracks, or even coins struck on the wrong planchet. Error coins are highly collectible because they are unique. No 2 error coins are exactly alike. With the 2020 penny, collectors have reported seeing some varieties with minor errors, making them much more desirable to numismatists. Let's also talk about rarity and demand. While millions of 2020 pennies were minted, not all of them remain in excellent condition. Most went straight into circulation, where they were tossed around, scraped, or otherwise damaged. That means finding a flawless 2020 no mint mark penny is harder than it sounds. On top of that, coin collecting as a hobby has seen renewed interest in recent years. Many collectors are actively searching for modern coins in top condition, driving up the value of coins like the 2020 penny. Collectors often send their coins to professional grading services such as PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, or NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company. These companies examine coins under strict conditions and assign them a grade on a numerical scale, usually from 1 to 70. A grade of MS-70 represents a perfect, flawless coin. For the 2020 no mint mark penny, coins that achieve grades like MS-67, MS-68, or higher have brought significant prices in the marketplace. Beyond the technical side, there's also a story here about appreciation. Most people never look twice at a penny, yet for collectors, even a 2020 penny can become a centerpiece of a collection if it meets the right standards. This transformation, from an everyday coin worth 1 cent into a collectible worth thousands, captures the magic of numismatics. It shows how attention to detail, passion, and knowledge can turn something ordinary into something extraordinary. The 2020 penny also serves as a reminder of how the U.S. Mint continues to produce coins that carry historical weight, even in modern times. Abraham Lincoln remains one of the most revered presidents in American history, remembered for his leadership during the Civil War and his dedication to equality and freedom. Every penny with his portrait is, in a way, a tribute to his legacy. So what should you do if you come across a 2020 no-mint mark Lincoln penny? The first step is to examine it carefully. Check its condition. Does it look new, shiny, and free from scratches? If so, it might be worth setting aside. The second step is to consider having it professionally graded. A certified grade can dramatically increase its market value, especially if the coin is in exceptionally high condition. Finally, keep an eye out for errors or unusual markings, since those can also add value. Many collectors enjoy the thrill of the hunt. You never know when you might find a valuable coin in your pocket change, at a bank, or tucked away in a family collection. The 2020 penny is a great example of this excitement. While it is a modern coin and not hundreds of years old, its potential value makes it a coin to watch. Over the years, stories have emerged of people discovering valuable coins in the most unexpected places, hidden in old jars, discovered in rolls from the bank, or even found on the ground. Each discovery adds to the allure of coin collecting. And who knows? The penny you overlook today might just be the coin that changes everything tomorrow. Fascination with the 2020 no-mint mark penny also ties into a broader discussion about the future of the penny itself. In recent years, there have been debates about whether the United States should continue producing the penny, given that it costs more to make than its actual face value. Yet, for collectors, this discussion only adds another layer of intrigue. If the penny were ever discontinued, existing examples, especially rare or high-quality ones, would only become more collectible. As with all coins, the true value of the 2020 penny comes down to a combination of rarity, condition, demand, and historical significance. And while not every 2020 penny will be worth more than a cent, the best examples, preserved in mint condition, already command attention and respect within the collecting world. To put it simply, the 2020 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is a modern coin with timeless appeal. It is proof that even in today's world of digital payments and electronic transactions, physical coins still carry stories, value, and beauty that cannot be replaced. For those who take the time to look closely, the rewards can be substantial. After all, what seems like an ordinary penny could turn out to be a small fortune. And that's exactly the case with the most pristine and desirable examples of the 2020 no-mint mark Lincoln cent. So the next time you receive change, take a moment to look more carefully at the pennies in your hand. You may be holding a piece of American history, a tribute to Abraham Lincoln, and potentially a coin worth far more than you ever imagined. Because in the end, the 2020 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny has proven that even the smallest coin can carry a story of greatness, and in the right condition, its value can rise to as much as $4,000.